Blown away. Childhood ends in Quicksand. Helen visited my hometown of Quicksand, North Carolina in 1954 when I was 11 years old, and she was mad as hell. In a blind rage, she attacked everything. She snapped the limbs off huge water oak trees, tore the roof off our neighbor's tool shed, flooded basements, broke a few windows, scattered garbage cans. Rain fell for days. We were all glad when Helen, the first hurricane of the season, moved on. It took our town a long time to recover. Some of us never did. Given my experience with old mean Helen, I worried a bit about flying through a storm that night, even though it wasn't a hurricane. Flying can be dangerous in any kind of weather. Amelia Earhart flew off and never came back. Nobody knows what happened to her. I doubt we ever will. Mama said that my big brother Jason was beside himself as they waited for my plane to come in. According to Mama, Jason said not once, but twice, that if anything happened to me, he could never forgive himself. Other Mama, my maternal grandmother, and I were visiting Aunt Sissy in Miami, Florida. It was my very first vacation ever when my brother Jason surprised everybody and came home on leave from the Air Force. Mama called long distance to Miami, and we each spoke to him. Jason said he was disappointed to find that I was visiting Aunt Sissy because he planned to take me swimming and roller skating. I became so disappointed I felt feverish. Jason would have to return to base in Texas before my aunt could drive back to North Carolina. I wouldn't get to see him. About a week and a half later, Mama called with a surprise. Jason had convinced the Air Force to let him extend his leave so he could see me, his little sister. He would pay for my airplane ticket out of his own pocket. I jumped up and down at the news until Aunt Sissy said, "Please, for God's sake, Niki, stop that. Act your age." In the 3 short weeks I'd been at Aunt Sissy's, everything seemed to change. First, Jason's surprise visit, then Rosebud's marriage. My sister Rosebud eloped with a Marine she met at the beach, and when word got out, Aunt Lola and Uncle Tater gave her a reception. And as if that weren't enough, Mama announced Jason had a girlfriend named Clotilda Camilla Fox. Everyone called her Chloe. Her name reminded me of the hoochie coochie dancers at the county fair. I loved the county fair. Along the Midway, sideshows featured such oddities as the Headless Wonder, Ossified Harry, the man who turned to stone, and Little Willie, the half-man, half-frog. Even though I begged, Mama wouldn't allow me to ever go inside one of these shows. She said she felt sorry for those poor souls, and putting them on display was a crime. Further along the Midway were all the girly shows. Each one was about the same. A barker in a straw hat, holding a microphone, introduced each girl as she came out of the tent to stand near him on the stage platform. He called each of them by name. The only name I could ever remember was Legs Benedict. The dancers wore what looked like bathing suits rather than costumes, despite the fringe and sequins. While the barker encouraged the men to come inside the tent to see the dancing girls, the girls would dance in place, wriggling and jiggling their hips and behinds while he talked. We never stayed too long in front of those tents. Mama said such dancing was trashy. While in Miami, I seemed to have missed all the excitement back home, but I'd never flown on an airplane before, and that was exciting. The fact that Jason bought the ticket removed whatever fear I had of being airborne. That I would be flying alone made the occasion even more special. The Florida sky was overcast. It rained off and on, so the weather report wasn't exactly favorable for flying. But at first everything seemed fine. I didn't mind how my stomach flip-flopped when we left the ground, or that my ears popped. Every little bit, one of the stewardesses would drop by my seat to ask if I was okay. I'd answer, "I'm fine." That was true until the plane began to rock back and forth and bump up and down. I didn't like that. The captain came on the loudspeaker and said, "We are heading into turbulence. Please fasten your seatbelts." Looking past the white-haired man sitting on my right to the small window beyond, I watched rain splash against the pane and lightning streak across the sky. Other Mama always said that everybody should lie down and pray during a thunderstorm. So I leaned back and shut my eyes real tight. We bounced around up there for ages. I passed the time thinking about Jason and the fun we were going to have and praying I'd get home soon. Our flight had been delayed about an hour because of the severe electrical storm. Oddly enough, it wasn't raining when I stepped off the plane. When I walked through the gate, I saw Mama, Daddy, Jason, and my other brother Ben waiting. They seemed more frightened than I had been. It never occurred to me the plane might crash. It was late when we got home from the airport, and we went to bed. That is, everyone but Jason. I heard him go out the front door and start his car, but I was too sleepy to wonder where he was going or why. In mid-August, our small town of Quicksand was terribly hot. The next day, Jason was going back to the Air Force, but that night, Jason said we were going to Playland, the city of Charlotte's newest amusement park. It took several hours to get ready because I wanted to look my best. After a long bath, I buffed my neck, chest, and underarms with Rosebud's bluegrass dusting powder. I wore my new outfit that other Mama paid for, dark blue shorts with blue and white checks on the pockets. The matching top had straps that tied over each shoulder. Mama had to redo my ponytail 3 times. She never had a way with hair, hers or anybody else's. "How does it look?" I asked. "Beautiful, the color of honey." "Not the color, Mama." Sometimes Mama made me so mad I had to grit my teeth to keep from saying something hateful. "I think I got it right this time," she said. I hoped so. I wouldn't go if my ponytail were crooked. In the bedroom mirror, I took another look at the back of my head using Mama's gold compact. Daddy gave her the compact for Christmas 3 years before. It's the only thing I'd ever seen him give her. It was hard to see much because the compact was small, but the ponytail appeared to be in the middle this time. To complete the outfit, I put on my shoes. It took what seemed like 5 minutes to tie the laces on each Roman canvas sandal. They were blue, like my outfit. Jason and I strolled through the gate into Playland Park. My brother was very tall. That night, he wore his Air Force uniform and looked more handsome than ever. I didn't plan on it, but to my secret delight, we were both wearing blue. I was so proud to be with him, I felt as if I might explode. Although he wasn't walking fast, I had to take 3 steps to keep up with his one. It was Friday, and I noticed that the small but popular amusement park was almost deserted. "Where is everybody?" I asked. "Are you sure the park's open?"
"Guess it's early,"
Jason said. "What time is it?" I asked. Jason looked at his watch.
5:30 p.m.,
he said. I said. Not that I cared what time it was. I was trying to make polite adult conversation.
"What do you want to do?"
His question caught me off guard. It was Jason's idea to come to the park. I figured we'd ride rides and eat stuff. "What do you want to do?" I asked. Jason grinned.
"Hey, how about some cotton candy?"
"Yeah, let's get some of that," I said. "I read in a book once that cotton candy used to be called fairy floss." Jason handed me the cloud of pink on a cardboard cone. "Where's yours?"
"Don't think I want any fairy dust,"
he said.
"Just yet,"
he added. "Fairy floss," I giggled. Jason always made everyone laugh, but it was in that very moment I sensed something wasn't quite right. Jason wasn't acting like the Jason I knew. Granted, my brother had been away in the Air Force for a year, but he always smiled and joked a lot. His perfect teeth were so white, his smile lit up a room. He seemed so serious. What's wrong, I wondered. Has the military brainwashed him?
"Want to ride something?"
he asked. "The merry-go-round," I said. It was my favorite ride. We got in line behind a handful of kids and their parents. I envisioned Jason and myself riding horses side by side, like the Lone Ranger and Tonto. But Jason sat down nearby on a wide bench shaped like a church pew, next to a sweaty-looking woman holding a fat baby on her lap. The benches on a merry-go-round were for stuffy adults and elderly people. Why wouldn't Jason want to ride a horse near me? For several minutes, the merry-go-round circled in silence, except for the mournful grinding of the gears. I began to worry that something was broken with the sound when the organ music began and the Sidewalks of New York began to play from a speaker high above. The horses soon picked up their pace. Every few minutes I peeked over at Jason. From time to time he smiled at me. That is, when the woman with the baby wasn't babbling about something. As the merry-go-round slowed to a halt, I hopped off my horse and told Jason that I wanted to ride the Ferris wheel.
"You sure?"
he asked.
"It's kind of scary."
"Pretty please," I begged. Jason laughed, and my spirits lifted. It was the first time he had laughed since we arrived.
"Wait here,"
he said. I watched him walk to the ticket booth. Jason had always looked out for me. Since Daddy was hardly ever around, Jason often showed me how to do things. He taught me how to brush my teeth. He even made a wooden stool that I could stand on to watch myself in the mirror as I brushed. He had often surprised me with toys, something Daddy never did. Jason played Santa Claus, too. If there were any toys to be assembled, he did it because Daddy was either too drunk or not at home. Jason returned holding only one ticket for the Ferris wheel. "Where's yours?" I asked, taking the ticket.
"You want me to ride too?"
I nodded. Jason walked back to the booth. I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. What was going on? If he didn't want to ride anything with me, why did he bring me here? It was my very first ride on a Ferris wheel. The 3 older kids in the seat behind us started squealing before we went around once. I wanted to squeal too, but one look at Jason's disapproving expression told me it was not a good idea. Nevertheless, the chills that danced up and down my spine were thrilling. When our gondola stopped at the very top, Jason said, "Should we rock it? See what happens?" The look on my face made him crack up, and I laughed too. But once on the ground, it was back to, "What do you want to do now?" We sat down on a bench. More people began to arrive at the park. I felt tired, and I found it hard to look at Jason. When I said I didn't want to do anything else, he seemed baffled and somewhat surprised. He asked several times if I was sure before we headed home. Jason knew I was upset because I didn't talk any more about how I looked forward going into the 7th grade like I did on the way to the park. I didn't continue to expound on ancient Egypt in the time of the pharaohs, or bother to explain that Caesar and Cleopatra rode down the Nile on a barge. I didn't even ask Jason if he had received my letters. In fact, I didn't say one word during the drive back from Playland Park. We pulled up in the driveway. Jason sighed and opened his mouth as if he were about to speak, but I didn't wait. I jumped out of the car without saying goodbye. With a force not unlike Hurricane Helen, I raced up the steps to the front porch, passing Mama as she raced down. "Niki, honey, what?" She hesitated slightly, but when I ignored her, she headed towards the driveway. "Jason, wait! Jason, wait up!" she yelled. "Chloe just called, and she says—" I opened the screen door, but couldn't resist the urge to stop and listen. Mama leaned on the car door talking to Jason. I heard my name. Their voices rose. I couldn't hear what Jason was saying, but I knew he was defending himself. So that was it. Jason had a date that night with his stupid girlfriend. Jason took me to the park for about an hour, and now he was on his way to her. The realization resounded in my head with a deafening bang, like the screen door I slammed shut behind me. I don't recall exactly what happened after I ran inside. The next thing I do remember was Mama taking my arm and steering me to the bathroom. I tried to get away. Mama put down the toilet seat, something the men in our house never did, and motioned for me to sit. I obeyed, but I couldn't stop crying. She ran cold water over a washcloth and attempted to wipe my face. I kept pushing her hands away. Sobs racked my body. "Oh, honey, you're so upset your nose is bleeding. Put your head back," Mama said. "It's bleeding because my heart's broken," I cried. "Please tell me what—" "Jason didn't want to be with me." My voice sounded different, raspy, like a monster in a horror movie. "Of course he did," Mama cooed. "No!" I screamed as loud as possible, like Daddy screamed when he was throwing a fit. "I hate him. I hate Jason. I hate Jason. Why did he want me to come home? Why? Why?" Blood trickled from my nose. "Keep your head back," she said. Mama was afraid of the sight of blood. "Darling, exactly what happened? Tell me," Mama urged. I managed to explain that I felt pretty being with Jason and so proud, but when he didn't talk or want to do anything, I began to feel ugly. I also wanted to let Mama know that she was right. I should have worn a pair of sensible shoes, not those stupid sandals that laced up the calves like gladiators used to wear. But I didn't say that. Between the hiccups that started, I could only shriek, "I hate Jason. I never want to see him again. I wish I were dead." Mama pleaded with me to calm down. "I don't understand. Jason said you had a good time at Playland. Y'all rode the merry-go-round." Mama did her best to reason with me, and I heard everything she said, but the whole time I was yelling, "Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Jason is a dirty, rotten liar. It's old Chloe he wanted to be with, not me. He doesn't care about me. Nobody does." Mama began to explain. "Jason is a grown man, your brother, Niki. He has a girlfriend. One day you'll be dating," and I understood what she was saying, but I didn't want to hear it. I felt hurt, embarrassed, humiliated, and in too much pain to be rational. I ran from the bathroom. Mama followed with the bloody washcloth. In the doorway of the kitchen, like the Roadrunner in Looney Tunes, I came to a screeching halt. Sitting at the kitchen table, sipping a bottle of beer, was a man I'd never seen before, a total stranger who had heard the howling winds of my rage. "Niki," Mama said, "this is Richie." Desperate for a place to hide, I squeezed into the small space between the wall and the washing machine in the corner of the kitchen and covered my burning face with my hands. I'd heard about Richie, Rosebud's handsome Marine from Camp Lejeune that she eloped with. I wanted to meet him, but not like this. Richie heard the terrible things I said about Jason, and he heard me sass my mama. I wanted to disappear. I was racking my brain to think of where to go next, where to hide, when Richie came over to the corner where I was crouched.
"Look it,"
he began. I expected him to turn away if I ignored him, but instead he came closer, pulled a handkerchief from his back pocket, handed it to me, and knelt down. The sleeves of his white T-shirt were rolled up, and through my swollen eyelids I made out Neptune, the Roman god of the sea, holding a trident tattooed on his upper arm. He had a mass of blonde curly hair, and several curls dangled over one of his very blue eyes. He was explaining that he was sure Jason didn't mean to hurt my feelings. Nothing this Richie said could change anything. Jason had gone and got himself a girl and ruined everything. I never told anybody, not even Mama, but I secretly dreamed that one day Jason would help us get away from Daddy. Other Mama claimed Daddy was the devil incarnate. I never thought about how Jason would help us escape, or where we'd all live, or anything like that. But now, we'd never get away. As Richie talked, I stopped hiccuping.
"We'll go roller skating," he said. "You and me."
I looked at Mama. She nodded and smiled. Had she told him I liked to roller skate?
"Next Saturday night," he said. "Rosebud's working. You and me, we'll go roller skating. After, we'll pick her up from work and go for a hamburger." But hey, he chuckled, you got to stop crying right now.
Richie seemed too good to be true. I allowed him to coax me out of the corner to the kitchen table to share a plate of Mama's homemade fudge. My nose stopped bleeding, and I began to feel somewhat better, but from that night on, I knew the winds had shifted, and I knew that nothing in my life would or could ever be quite the same.